just going to check the chain slack on the DR before I head out for a ride. There's a little trick to this which I didn't quite appreciate when I first bought the bike, that usually you check the chain slack in the middle of the chain. So the middle of the chain, that's between the front sprocket and the axle, which is about here, which is right at the end of the chain guide. So interestingly, when you check the chain, you can't actually go up because the chain guide. So what, if you read the owner's manual, it says halfway between the chain guide and the sprocket. I presume they mean the end of the sprocket, which you can see about there, rather than the axle. So halfway between the end of the sprocket and the chain guide is about that point there. And so, you know, if you look at that point there, there's about 6 and a bit, goes up to 3, so the difference is 3 centimeters there, so that's sufficient for chain slack. And there's actually an easier way to set your chain, is once you work out how slack it should be, all you have to do is measure it at the bottom part. So if I'm happy with 3 centimeters as my chain slack, which is just over an inch and a bit, all you have to do is set the top of your chain, it looks like about 6 centimeters, because your chain slack is just the top minus the bottom, and so your chain slack is varies between the top and the bottom. So once you've worked out what chain slack you like, you can just set it at the bottom and you get your chain slack automatically. So as I said, that looks like about 6. The top's about, actually it's a little bit less than 3. It looks like about 2.5, maybe even 2. But anyway, so if I just set my chain to 6 at the bottom there, that looks like it'll do for chain slack. So that's a pretty easy equation. Just set 6 centimeters and you're done. As it looks like I've got that chain set at exactly the right slack, so I don't have to do any adjustment. Perfect. So for my rear sprocket, I pushed the chain down and it was 60. I pushed the chain up and it was about 25, maybe 30, whatever. So 60 minus 25, it's a 35 mil chain slack, which is about 1.4 inches. The owner's manual says you should be between 30 and 45 at that point, which is 1.2 to 1.8, so I think 1.5 is the middle. So I'm near enough the middle of that range, which is good enough because it's a relatively new chain, so it's going to get slack. So I'm slightly on the low side of that, 35. So it's a new chain, it's probably got some give in it still, and I'm quite happy where I've set that at the moment. It was very slack when I checked it, and now I know it's in the place. So the key is halfway between your chain buffer and the edge of your sprocket, you work out your chain slack. But as I said, the easiest way is just measure how deep your chain is when it's pushed down. So I know now that when mine is pushed down to about 60, I've got the right chain slack. So I just push it down until I get about 60. I've got the right chain slack, and that'll do me. So that's about 1.5 inches, 1.4 inches, 35 millimeters. It's about right in the middle. The other thing to notice is the rear axle torque. The owner's manual has 110 Newton meters. So for those of you that have tried, 110 Newton meters is bloody tight. I've actually got a breaker bar to help me get the axle slack, and I've actually got a torque wrench. I don't take it to 110, I take it to about 100. And so that is a bloody tight axle, so don't hold back when you're tightening up the axle. So once you've set your chain, tighten up your axle to about 110 Newton meters, which is bloody tight. It's not an easy torque to reach that. And so that's how you set your chain on the DR650. I hope that helped someone. Let me know in the comments if it's helped you, and and there you go. So as I said, the easiest thing is between your chain buffer and the end of the sprocket, just check your chain slack. But once you measure 60mm down, you're about halfway between anyway, and that's the easy way to do it. Okay, thanks for your time. Bye.